Okay, right. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out to join us this evening. My name's Karen. I'm the Society Events Coordinator. We'll get the presentation started shortly, but there's just a couple of little housekeeping things I just need to go over first. What we'd like to do is record this session today. So if you don't want your image shown on camera, if you could just turn your camera off by just clicking the little icon up on your toolbar. Also, we also ask that you keep your microphones on mute just while the presentation's going on. There will be a chance for questions and answers at the end, but also we've got the chat facility. If you wanted to ask a question, you could pop that into the chat. Julie will be keeping an eye on that for us. It just cuts down on any background noise while the presentation's happening. So we're going to start the recording now, and I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Julie Sheldon, who'd just like to say a few words, and then we'll get started with the actual presentation. So over to you, Julie.
Thanks, Karen, and thanks everyone. Appreciate it. 6 o'clock on a Wednesday evening, but we do appreciate you coming on the call and listening to obviously what will be amazing. To be fair, I'm sure that's what you will do. I'm an ambassador for Walsall Regional Community, for those who don't know. Most of you do, and Simon Hartland, who is on the call, just out of this picture at the moment, he's also an ambassador. Partnership with Black Country Women's Aid began July 23, so this year, and we will be in partnership with them until next May. And to date, been supporting them with many things from stationery and hot off the press. Today, we have completed some hampers, Christmas hampers for them, and to support certainly the victims, or certainly who they work with. But I'm not going to steal any more thunder of Anna's, and I will hand over to Anna now. And as Karen has said, there will be an opportunity for questions. So enjoy. Thank you.
Hello there, my name is Anna Fowler and I'm part of the fundraising team at Black Country Women's Aid. I'm so pleased to be able to join you on this call, and hopefully many more who will see the recording afterwards. And I'd like to thank the Mid-Counties Co-op once again for supporting us with this fantastic charity partnership. So if we could go to the next slide, please, Karen. So my presentation will be roughly about 20 minutes long, and this is what I'm going to talk about today. As already mentioned, there's the chat function. You can put a question in there, or if you'd like to ask any questions at the end, please do so, and I'll do my very best to answer them. So I'll tell you a little bit about Black Country Women's Aid, why we're needed, what we do, how we help victims of domestic abuse, modern slavery, stalking and sexual violence to become survivors, how you can help us and the difference that we can make together. And I'll just give you a few simple ideas about something that you can go away and do straight away, immediately, really easy, and to help us make a difference in our communities. And as I said, there's some time for any questions at the end. Just also to let you know that I will be talking a bit about, I will be talking about things that you may find distressing or upsetting, or it may actually be something that's affected you or somebody that you know. So please take your well-being in account. And if you need to talk to someone, we're available. Please let us know after the presentation. You can contact us on WhatsApp, through the website, by phone. Just let us know if we can help you or someone that you know. So, about Black Country's Women's Aid. Well, what do we do? At Black Country Women's Aid, we listen, we support, and we care. We're an independent, well-established charity. We've been going for around 35 years now. And what we do is we help victims and survivors to escape from violence, cope with trauma, and rebuild their lives. We're a successful charity. Since the year 2000, we've grown in turnover from round about £200,000 to an annual income of just over 7.5 million into 2022. So that means that we've created financial stability, sustainable growth, what we need to meet the growing, unfortunately, the growing demand for our services in a region which has a higher than average incidence of domestic abuse, and which is regularly listed as one of the 20 most deprived regions in England. So to help combat some of these issues, to help tackle some of these issues, we offer a one-stop shop. We like to call it a one front door or a one-stop shop for advice, support, help and therapy. And crucially, this means that victims and survivors only have to tell their story once. Because as you can imagine, if you have to tell your story time and time again to different agencies, to different services, it can be extremely traumatizing. So in the next slide, I'll explain a little bit more about why we're needed. And unfortunately, these sobering statistics speak for themselves. 1 in 4 women, so a quarter of all women, will experience domestic abuse and violence in their lifetime. And again, very sadly, 1 in 5 children will witness or be exposed to domestic abuse. 1 in 20 children in our country have been or are being sexually abused. Again, horrifying if you think that that's at least 1 child in every classroom in the country. And locally, over 57,000 domestic abuse-related crimes were reported in our region in the last couple of years. And 40% of all violent offending in the West Midlands in 2021 was domestic abuse. So it is a very local issue as well as a national and international problem. So next slide, please, Karen. So what are we doing at Black Country Women's Aid to combat, to tackle these really very serious issues and to help people start newer and safer lives? Well, we're experts in supporting people who have suffered trauma, and that's what really unites all of our services. Many of our victims have experienced multiple kinds of difficulty or barriers within their lives. So as well as being a victim of violence and abuse, they may come from a low income background. They may have a disability. In fact, people with disabilities are more likely to suffer domestic abuse than people who don't have disabilities. And we see clients as well who may come to us in poor physical health or have mental health issues. And as I said before, our one-door approach or our one-stop shop approach to services provide what people need to get back on track, stabilise, recover from their trauma and start again. So when a client comes and sees us, we treat every single individual as their own person and tailor the support that they need to improve their situation. And that could be advocacy. And what I mean by advocacy could be someone who's got your back, who's in your corner if you need to go and speak to someone about claiming benefits, or if you need to speak to the head teacher of your school if you want your child to go to a different school. But advocacy can also be within the judicial court system. So we tell a victim what they might expect if they have to testify in court and what will happen during the court process. We also give advice for people to get back on their feet. So that might be claiming the best benefits that they can and the biggest range of benefits. It might be getting back into education or training and also giving them support to go out and back into work. We obviously provide refuge, and that's maybe what people think of first of all when you say women's aid, and refuge is for people fleeing domestic violence and modern slavery, and that can be women, men and children. Children's services at the bottom there is a very important part of what we do. And we also provide support for homeless victims, for women who are involved in the criminal justice system. So that might be people leaving prison, And unfortunately, it's actually over 50 now, over 50% of women in prisons in the UK have a domestic abuse background. So we support them when they leave prison so that they don't return to a dangerous situation of potential violence where they're pressurised into reoffending. And we also have a dedicated service for male victims. So that's men and boys, and that can include historic sexual violence. We see clients who may be middle-aged in their 50s or 60s who have come to us after having been sexually abused as a child. And this is only now the time that they've been able to start speaking about it and trying to process it and overcome their trauma. So we are there to support those people. So next slide, please.
I've been receiving counselling support from Black Country Women's Aid since 2021. It would be true to say that when I first started counselling last year, I was in the worst imaginable place, a place that was so dark and so frightening I didn't even think it could exist. I was hoarding. I was too frightened to pull back the curtains to my house. There was no way I could open the door. I even struggled to watch television programmes because they would be a trigger. Just because at that moment in time I was absolutely terrified of all men, of all ages. If I needed to go shopping, I always had to have somebody with me, and my anxiety would be through the roof. I would be in tears in my car on the supermarket car park just because I was so frightened to go into the supermarket because I didn't want to be anywhere where a man might be. Regarding personal care, I'd very much neglected myself. I was really struggling to take my clothes off, but then conversely, I was buying up to sort of 5 bottles of bleach a week and was desperate to clean myself with bleach, put bleach in my bath water and just to try and wash away that awful feeling of being so dirty. I couldn't even use toiletries that had been bought me as gifts. I couldn't even, use hand cream anymore, anything. I'd completely changed my appearance, wore clothes that were, a good 4 sizes too big for me. And as I say, that has completely changed now. And it is all down to the counselling support that I've received. I mean, I get told that I must take credit for some of it because I've done the hard work, but there's no way I could have done the hard work or made the progress that I've made without the support of my counsellor, Karen, from Black Country Women's Aid. Absolutely, I know I couldn't have done. Her techniques, her skills, the way she was able to suggest different things to me and I was in such a desperate place I would have tried anything. But we had a really, really good rapport, and I felt that I could trust her. I felt that I could really be truthful and confide in her as to how I was really feeling. And you can probably tell from my voice today, I'm in a much, much better place. I no longer wear clothes that are 4 sizes too big for me. I do put makeup on when I'm going out. I do take care of my hair. And I'm someone with complex disabilities as well, so I've got carers in for 35 hours a week. But one of my priorities now is to have my hair washed and to have nice things and to wear perfume and, not deny myself things. I was very much denying myself all sorts of things. I mean, even down to food that I would buy. I wouldn't even allow myself to have a full priced item just because I wanted it. I would only buy marked down and reduced food, which now, where I am now, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being thrifty, but It just seems to be ridiculous to have been in such a state. And I know I've still got a way to go, and I'm receiving my second lot of counselling. But what I think is amazing is the support that I received from the first lot last year, and the skills and the techniques and the strategies. They've carried me through what has been a very difficult time, a very challenging legal case, very distressing. But those skills and that strength that I was able to build up during those first counselling, that first set of counselling sessions, carried me through that really difficult time. I'm now at the next stage, and we're working on just building up the next goals that I've set myself. I'm no longer terrified in supermarkets. I don't cry in my car when I pull up onto car parks. I'm not terrified of every single man I come into. I mean, yes, I am very aware of keeping myself safe. I'm not terrified every time somebody knocks at my front door. I can now open my front door without even having to peer out the window to the side. And there, I've got back to, you know, a level of normality, a healthy level of normality. And I never ever could have done that without the support of Karen, my counsellor, and the other support I've received from Black Country Women's Aid. I really am looking forward to getting even stronger, even better, you know, and just I'm so hopeful now, whereas originally I would dread every day. And I haven't had suicidal thoughts now for a number of months, and that is amazing. I just want to live now the best life that I possibly can, and just go out there and grab it, you know. So thank you very much. And I can't heap enough praise on Black Country Women's Aid for being there for me and for other women, and especially to Karen. Yeah, thank you so much, Karen.
But I can tell you very briefly her story. This particular lady came to us for counselling, and unfortunately she'd suffered very serious abuse, and she also has disabilities which she requires care for and affects her day-to-day life. And she said that when she first came to us, she was in the worst imaginable place, a place so dark and so frightening that she couldn't even think that it could exist. And her trauma was manifesting itself in lots of very negative, damaging ways. So she says that she was hoarding. She said that she wouldn't buy herself nice things. All the food that she would buy would all be by sell-by date discounts because she didn't feel that she deserved anything nice. She would wear clothes that were 3 or 4 times larger than what she'd really need because she wanted to be hidden. She felt dirty, and she'd buy bottles of bleach, and she wanted to put the bleach in her bath water and just try and wash away all the awful feelings that she was having about being so dirty. If someone bought her some nice toiletries for a gift, she couldn't use them. She completely changed her appearance, and she was just really at a very, very low ebb. When she came to us, to Black Country Women's Aid, we supported her with therapy, with techniques and skills to help her overcome her trauma. And our counsellor really built up a very trusting relationship with her, so much so that our client says that she began to feel to be in a much, much better space. So she felt that she could take care of her hair, she felt that she could buy normal clothes. She didn't want to deny herself nice things anymore. She was able to go to the supermarket without crying in the car park because she was so scared of bumping into a man, any man. She was petrified of any men that she came across of any age. She said that she didn't cry in her car anymore. She was able to open her curtains, and she was able to open the door to people. And she really got back to a level of normality. And she says a healthy level of normality that she never ever could have got to without the support of Black Country Women's Aid. And she finished off the interview with us by saying that she was really looking forward to getting even stronger and even better. And she was so hopeful for the future when before she would dread every day. And thankfully now she hasn't had any suicidal thoughts for a number of months. And she says that is just amazing. So she now wants to live her best life that she possibly can and just go out there and grab every opportunity that life sends her way. Next slide, please. So that is it's a really moving testimony, and hopefully you'll be able to hear it, but it's fairly representative of, you know, some of the real barriers and issues that our very, very brave clients have to face on their road to recovery. And Mid-Counties Co-op have been incredibly supportive by fundraising for our counselling services. And these photos represent some of the counselling services that we're offering at the moment. So at the top left-hand side, the two lovely blonde ladies there are my colleagues, Louise and Lauren, and they're just fantastic young people's advocates. They're full of energy, full of life, and they get the best results for the children who come and see us. And we've been very fortunate to be funded by the National Lottery. The Community Fund logo is down there on the left-hand side for a project called Flourishing Futures. And Flourishing Futures is really important because it helps mothers and children who have gone through domestic abuse to work through their trauma together. And we do that through one-to-one counselling, and families can talk about their experience together. It's really, really innovative, this programme. We're using a course called DART, which has been formed by or formulated by the NSPCC, and it's based all around fun activities that families can do together in large groups so that they build support networks, and they develop safer relationships, and they can process what they've been through together. So you might be wondering what that little pink thing is, the little statue, and that's called an oogly, and that was made by one of the children attending this course. And an oogly is just a method for us to get the child to talk about their experiences and their hopes for the future. So this oogly, I think, is called Squiggle. And we ask them to talk about their ooglies and imagine what their ooglies life might be like. So this oogly's got a cat, and she loves her cat. She loves spending time with her family. And this way, it's a lovely, safe way for the children to imagine really what their home life should have been like. Unfortunately, it hasn't been like this up to this point, but this is us now looking to the future and teaching them and getting them to understand what life can be in terms of a nice, safe relationship and a family that works in the right way. And it's really important that we do that with children, because research is showing that children affected by domestic abuse are more likely to have mental health problems. They can have difficulties with their emotions, they can develop disorders, and even more worryingly possibly is that they can copy abusive behaviours, so they can grow up to be abusers or to be more susceptible to domestic violence. So this is a fantastic programme, and part of our funding from the National Lottery was under the condition that we would seek match funding, additional funding, to give even more counselling sessions, and that's where Mid-Counties Co-op are very, very kindly helping us with that for families in Walsall. So just to sort of finish up in the next couple of slides, just to talk very briefly again about the counselling. The picture in the middle is of an owl, and that's an animal. It's a especially trained animal for animal therapy counselling. So again, this works particularly well for children who may be neurodiverse or may have difficulties in opening up. We would have a counselling session where the child would sit with a counsellor and the owl or a dog or an iguana, or we have a whole range of support animals, and the child can stroke the animal, pet the animal if they feel distraught or distressed, and it helps calm them down. But it also allows them to talk to the animal and tell the animal the experiences while the counsellor is monitoring and developing the therapy that will help that child. And then finally, we also offer outdoor wellbeing courses, which are fantastic for all kinds of people, but they work well, particularly as well for men, because men often find it difficult to open up and express their feelings. So we take groups of people out into beautiful parkland, they build dens, they make tea over fires, they cook outside, they go rambling, they learn about all the different plants and the food that's available for foraging. And at the same time, they're developing bonds, they're talking about their experience, they understand that they're not isolated, they're not alone, they're in a different environment, and it's all part of their therapy to overcome what they've experienced and come out the other end and then start reliving their lives. So next slide, please. So not many more slides now, so don't worry, you can go and have a cup of tea in a minute, but just to explain how you can help. Again, we're so chuffed to be working with the Mid-Counties Co-op, and you can see us here at the lovely Walsall shop for a Go Purple event we had a couple of months ago. So how can you get involved? Well, first of all, please contact us if you're experiencing what you might feel is domestic abuse or sexual violence or stalking or modern slavery. We will listen to you, we will believe you, and we will help you. Again, that goes for anybody who may feel that a friend or family member might need our support. You can also look out for our special Mid-Counties Co-op theme days. We're raising awareness of Black Country Women's Aid throughout all the stores, and I think we'll probably have an in-person event in the new year sometime. So again, look out for that. And if you can, please donate in store. We've got collection buckets. Absolutely every penny counts. And if we go into the next slide, I'll show you how that works out. So £5 can pay for someone to attend a session, a support meeting. As I said, some of our families, a lot of our families have very severe financial problems, so that £5 can make all the difference to them. £10 would be a therapy workbook for a child who's experienced sexual abuse. They can go home after their counselling session, look over their workbook, feel calmer, understand what's happening, and work on their therapy at home. £20 pays for a distraction box, and that's really items that will help someone, again, stop negative feelings, stop negative emotions, distract them, divert their attention. It could be a fidget spinner, it could be a journal, and help them on their emotional recovery. And £45 would pay for any of the specialist counselling that I've already spoken about. So next slide. So that's it. That's me finishing up now. So thank you for your patience and for listening so attentively. If there's one thing that you can do now is tell your family and friends about what we do at Black Country Women's Aid. Or you can follow, like and share our social media posts on social media. Anything to get the word out there is really fantastic. If you can't donate financially in store, if you're doing any Christmas shopping online, you can go through platforms like Give As You Live or Easy Fundraising. And when you purchase something through the link, we'll get a percentage of that. So that's fundraising at no cost to you whatsoever. And finally, I'm here if you want to ask a question, if you want to share your ideas, I'm here to help. So thank you so much for listening, and if there's any questions, I'd very happily try and answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. There's none in the chat, just so everybody knows at this stage.
Okay.
Anna, how many counsellors do you have working with you at one time?
Oh gosh, that's a difficult question. I don't know. We have a small in-house team, but we also contract out counselling. So for example, for the outdoor therapy counselling, we have one specialist, a really lovely gentleman that helps us in sort of your area, around about the Walsall area. And again, if we're able to get funding, we contract more. So there's always the demand, there's always the needs. So yeah, that really depends on the funding that we can attract and also how many people we can help at any given time.
Okay. And obviously I know you're in the Black Country sort of area, but if somebody was what's the sort of boundaries for that? And if anybody's outside that boundary and they come to you, do you just, is there other groups that you sort of forward them on to, or what sort of area do you cover?
Absolutely. So we're Black Country West Midlands, and those are the boroughs of Sandwell, Wolverhampton, Walsall and Dudley. And although we're an independent charity, we're affiliated to the wider Women's Aid group. So there's a Women's Aid organisation for every area in the country. So there's one for Birmingham and Solihull, for example. So if you're on the border, we might send you there. I think there's one in Mercia, which is Worcestershire. So yes, and we also not just Women's Aid. If there's something that we can't support, whether it's slightly outside our remit, we will refer people onto other charities. So it might be specialist disability support, for example, or so we do work with a very big network of partners to make sure that people get the help that they need.
Yeah, only asking because I know sometimes people in those situations are a bit nervous to go somewhere local in case people find out through whatever. I know everything that's said at any of these things is confidential, but I suppose there is always that worry that someone might see them going to the place or whatever, and you know, so it's making it safe for those people that have got an issue that want to talk to somebody, and that's why I was asking if you just sort of, if there's other.
Yeah, absolutely. We're hyper aware of that. You know, we know that certain communities are very, very close, and that, you know, word can get very quickly. So I think we help people in lots of different ways. I think I might have mentioned you can contact us by WhatsApp. On our website, if you're at home looking at the website and someone comes into the room that you don't want them to know that you're looking at a website, we've got a quick exit button, really quick. So it'll pull the screen away so they can't see that you're on our website. And we have a 24-hour contact centre, so you can call at any time. And once we register you as a client, we will work to your schedule, to your, you know, so if it's safer for you to speak to us when you're on your school run in your car, we'll do that. If it's safer in the morning, if it's safer at night. So confidentiality and security and safety are uttermost priorities.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. And I mean, mine's more of a clearly. Thank you, Anna. I mean, clearly the presentation was as amazing as I thought it would be, and I don't mean amazing in a celebratory way, but clearly the stats are staggering. And I know we chatted earlier about that. But it's very sobering, and it's very reassuring that there's such places like Black Country Women's Aid, and I know they're countrywide, I know they are there to support the people that need it, and that's why, you know, we do get very humbled in being able to partner with you, you know, people like you and people, you know, who we've previously supported, because all that positivity that we can, you know, help these victims, which in fact I don't like using the word victim, but you know, the people that need it, clients, Karen, you know, I know that's what they are. Let's, you know, we have to face into those things, but making that positive difference for them is well, it is truly amazing. And I know we can't, you know, doing that, whether it's a little bit or a big bit, and clearly just listening, and I know you were reading some of the transcript possibly from the survivor story. I mean, I can't wait to hear it, not because I can't wait, but it must have been just soul destroying for her, but she now has come through that because of the help and the support that she's had from you guys. Is just truly, you know, so that's amazing. And you know, everybody at Black Country Women's Aid must be, they should be very proud. And as I said, we are to be partnering with you. And I have got Lou Brown typing, so she's typing something long, I think. Bless her. But
Lavendier's got her hand up.
She has.
Oh, hi. Sorry. Hi. Let me just put my camera on. Sorry. That's it. I just wondered, there was a couple of questions. So you said that you'd got £7.5 million. So is that just Black Country Women's Aid? that you've got?
Yeah, so Black Country Women's Aid, that is our income, and that comes from a variety of sources. So it can come from central government funding, local government funding, NHS, from the Police Crime Commissioner, from our own fundraising activities. But if you consider that last year we had 13,000 requests for help, and you know, a family might need us over several counselling sessions. They might need accommodation. They might need help with their benefits. Then they might need help with getting their kids back into school. You know, it seems an awful lot of money, but it isn't. It isn't really. It's not really in the great scope of things. So, you know, we are continuously fundraising to improve our services and to get to as many people who need us as we can.
Yes, of course. And the other question was, so if you have a victim that comes to you and they need a refuge or to be rehoused, are you able to help them go into a refuge?
Yes, we try our very best, and the way that refuges work is that it's a national referral system. So if there isn't a refuge space available with us in Sandwell, they may have to go to another part of the country. But unfortunately, demand is much, much higher than what we can accommodate. So at the moment, we're fundraising to build 2 new bungalows, refuge bungalows, which are accessible for disabled clients, because I think I mentioned that disabled people are much more likely, unfortunately, to be victims of domestic abuse and violence. So again, we're always fundraising, just trying to open up more spaces, more safe spaces for everyone that needs it. But it's not just us, it's a national issue. There's not enough refuge spaces to meet demand.
Well, I don't know if you've ever heard, because I work in Warsaw at the Manor Hospital, but I don't know whether you know Avon House. Do you know?
No, I'm as you might tell, I'm not local, so I'm still getting to grips with the Black Country.
Right. So where are you based then?
Yeah, I do work in West Bromwich, but
right,
I'm fairly new to the region, so you know, it's quite a big area, West Midlands. So you know, every now and then I get in my car, but no,
right.
I don't have that particular location. Sorry.
No, that's fine. It was just that. So have you ever heard of Soroptimist International?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So I'm a Soroptimist, but in Cannock, and we support Pathway Refuge, and South Staffordshire Women's Aid.
Oh, okay.
Which is the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they're part of the national affiliation, and that's what I was talking about. We all have our sort of borders, and they're one of the ones that border us. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just wondered why do you think disabled people are more likely to suffer the violence, the domestic violence?
Well, unfortunately, they're more susceptible because of a variety of people that might care for them. So they might be very isolated because they might be physically disabled, so they can't get out the house as often. They might have a long-term relationship with someone who cares for every aspect of their life and they're totally dependent on that person. Or it might even be a carer who comes in from outside and instead of caring for them, unfortunately abuses them. So it's really around lots of different issues. You know, it might be their mobility issues. It might be that unfortunately they can't communicate the abuse in a way that people would react to or understand. They need support to communicate that. So they can be very socially isolated. You know, might be stuck indoors, very difficult for them to escape physically. They have to escape. So unfortunately, there's a lot of additional issues around there.
There is. And do you think, if you live in West Bromwich, then you will know the area, is there more domestic violence with ethnic minorities than there is in English? Or
oh, absolutely not. Domestic violence, unfortunately, can cover every social class, every cultural background, every ethnicity. It's a universal problem. So, and the factors that feed into it are very complex. So it could be financial issues, it could be disabilities, as I've mentioned, it could be cultural backgrounds. So no, I wouldn't say that one particular sector of society is more susceptible than another. It affects women, men and children, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I've taken up a lot of time.
No,
Sorry.
no, it's great. It's great. And I'm glad I could answer your questions.
Yeah, it's brilliant, very engaging. Thank you, Linda. That's great. Lou, your question, how do you get someone to admit they have suffered abuse but are in denial and bury for a quiet life?
That's a really good question. Some of our clients don't even realise that they've suffered abuse when they first come to us, because that's all they've known, and they've been conditioned, and they don't realise that this isn't what life should be like. So we have a variety of counselling and therapeutic techniques. I'm not a counsellor, but I know that we have the domestic violence advocacy wheel. It's like a sort of bits of trivial pursuits segment, and we talk through the clients, you know, what should a relationship be like? It should involve trust, it should involve honesty, it should involve safety. We use different techniques like that to get them to open up. And we also have courses for, I think it's called Mum and Me, or Me and Mum. So again, it's to involve the children with the mother together so they can understand the situation together. And yeah, it's really, like our tagline says, we listen, we support, we care. It's listening to people, believing them, and acting on what they're telling us to get them to a place of safety and a new life.
Thank you. Laquinda, have you got another question?
Oh no, no, sorry.
That's all right.
I couldn't get the hand out.
Oh, don't worry, that's fine. As long as we
another question though, actually.
Okay.
So if you've got women that have been sexually assaulted, so, and because we get quite a few of those, it obviously, so I'm just wondering, how do you help? Can you help those, or you can't?
Yes, absolutely. Sexual violence support is one of the services that we provide. It can be linked to domestic abuse, or it can be separate. We have been out on trials with the police, for example, where when a rape victim first contacts the police, we've gone out in police cars, and we're there at the very moment that she first informs the police and reports the crime. So at her most sort of traumatic and vulnerable time, we're there from the very beginning to make sure that we understand what has happened to her and start the support right from the very start. So yeah, sexual violence is a big part of the services that we offer for men and women.
Brilliant. Well, thank you.
Can I ask another question? Sorry.
Of course,
Karen.
You were saying about if someone needs to be rehoused and that having the accommodation that you haven't got enough for everybody that needs. Can the council not help with like abandoned buildings or something, and perhaps give them to you as, I don't know, still at a cost, you know, charge you for it, but something that you could then create into like safe spaces, mini flats or things like that? Do they?
Well, we are investing as much as we can in the build of these new bungalows, for example, and it's just, I'd never been to a refuge before I came here, and it's not what I expected. They're beautiful self-contained flats, you know, that have everything that a home should have, you know, cushions on the sofa and food in the cupboards. And so the accommodation we provide has to be absolutely right. So we won't, you know, we won't take, although there may be a derelict building available, it might not quite meet our requirements, it might be too expensive to put together. So we know what our clients need, and we're trying our best to fill as many of those places as we can, as I'm sure that the women's aids are doing across the country.
Yeah, I only ask is many years ago when I worked in loss prevention, we worked with young offenders that they were young offenders because they'd basically been thrown out of home, or they'd left home because of abuse and that. And the group that we were helping, because we were doing talks with them, they'd managed to get this building and made like mini flats. So it was like a kitchenette and a little sofa and things like that, but a bedroom and stuff, just so they had somewhere, so they weren't on the streets basically, or they had somewhere to go because they were being abused. And
the council
that,
does
so
provide emergency accommodation, and often that's in hotels, but if you think in the long term you can't have a family in a hotel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So sometimes a victim of modern slavery, for example, who unfortunately we see people who've been trafficked to this country and forced into sex work, and they may be housed in somewhere that isn't appropriate for them, because they may be housed with people who have addiction problems or serious mental health problems, and they're incredibly traumatized themselves. So we always try and get the best accommodation that we can with the resources that we have, and we do look at different ways that we can provide that additional support.
Yeah, these were set up really for as a starter thing to get them back on their feet until they could get proper, you know, work jobs and have their counselling and everything else, so they could get on their feet to actually get their own place and that. So it was also to sort of like get them used to, because a lot of them were like kids that had just been thrown out. So and it taught them how to, you know, deal with bills and everything, and shopping and cooking and all this sort of thing, to as that little stepping stone to get them out of the abusive home, but then get them used to sort of like working on their own and that. So
and a big part of our work and the work of other similar charities is stabilizing people. You know, our clients suffer trauma that is really unimaginable.
Absolutely,
to me and you. So one of the first things we do is once we make them safe and keep them as safe as we can, then, you know, we stabilize them, and that might be emotionally, it might be financially, it might be providing them with accommodation. It's stabilization is a big part of what we do.
Thank you. We've had some very late comers, to be fair. So I'm afraid, Streetly Food and Emily, you've missed it. But I'm sure when we share the information, you'll be able to catch up on that. Because unless there are any other questions, and Karen, if there's anything else from a housekeeping you need to.
No, just obviously this session has been recorded for anybody that was late coming to things. So what we will do is this gets sent to our studio for them to top and tail it and that, and then it gets put on our YouTube channel. But what I will also do, anybody on this call, once I have that link, I'll send it out to you so you can view it, and hopefully we will have that embedded, that actual piece where one of the victims has been able to tell her story, fingers crossed. But I'll send you that link, but you will be able to find it on our YouTube channel in a couple of weeks, because it's got to go to our studio first to get on. But as soon as I have that link, I will send it out to everybody that's on this call. And anybody that's got any questions or anything, they can come through to me, send me an email or whatever, and I can pass that on to Anna if it's something to do with Anna sort of thing that can help. But yes, I'll pop my email address in the chat right now. So if anybody has got any questions that they think they might think about it later on, it might be something that comes to you later on that you would like to know, you can get in contact with me and I can pass that on for you. So
great, Karen, and
in there.
And obviously they can always reach out to the Walsall Regional Community Ambassadors. So absolutely. Thank you for that, Karen. Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone who's engaged. That's great. Some great questions. And like Karen said, I think when you've gone away and you'll digest some of the information, you may come up with more questions. So yeah, that's more than we can help with that. So I just wanted to thank everybody for giving up a little bit of their time on a Wednesday evening. But really appreciate that. Enjoy the rest of your evening, because I know it's very chilly. And best wishes to everybody. And if I don't see any of you, which I think I probably will see most of you, but if I don't, obviously wishing you and your families the best for Christmas, would you believe, and 2024.
And Anna, thank you so much. That was
a
really great presentation.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
For taking the time out.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks, everybody.